Welcome to Our Girl Relationships. On this channel, we talk about problems people face in their day-to-day lives. Let's start with a video.
My parents got separated almost 12 years ago, and my dad remarried right after their divorce. My mom's a very meek, kind, and decent woman, while my stepmom is a loud and self-centered person. My dad and my mom had an amazing relationship until my stepmom entered my dad's life and changed everything forever. My mom and dad would argue and fight sometimes, but they would eventually end and everything would be normal again. My dad and stepmom became friends over social media and then started dating while my mom was still with my dad. When my mom found out about it, she confronted my dad and told him that she was stepping out of the marriage right away. My mom divorced my dad within weeks, and my dad got remarried within a month. I had never liked my stepmom, and there were plenty of reasons for that. My stepmom would barely think of anyone else other than herself, and she would continuously speak ill of my mom and would tell me what kind of terrible mom she was, who did not even care for her daughter. My dad was sort of obsessed with her and would agree with her with whatever she would say, and she would never fail to prove herself right. That house had become a stress for me, and there was only one thing that was on my mind, and it was to move out as soon as possible. My dad and stepmom were blessed with a daughter, and it literally made things better. I loved her so much and would spend a lot of time with her. She was almost 2 years old when I moved out of my parents' house, and believe me, it was difficult to adjust for me because I missed her so much. Life became easier when I moved out as I could make decisions for myself, could decide who I actually wanted to spend my life with. My mom started coming over and would stay with me on weekends. We would go shopping together, dine out, and make sure to spend quality time, as I had missed her so much. When my stepmom came to know about our spending time together, she called me and told me that I was trusting the wrong person who had left me behind to move on in her life. I didn't say anything and kept listening to her until she was done. The next day, my stepmom came to see me and brought expensive gifts with her. She told me that she had gone shopping and could not resist buying them for me. I told her that she didn't need to do that, to which she replied that she was the only one who cared for her. I knew why she was there with all those gifts, but I didn't say anything. I didn't stop spending time with my mom, and my stepmom could not do anything to stop me. She even introduced me to her nephew and tried to convince me that he was perfect to date. I told her that she could not control my life and that she should focus on her own. Time passed and my stepmom kept trying to impress me with her gestures, which was so superficial. Even a kid could tell. She would arrange birthday surprises for me, would buy expensive gifts for me, and would invite me to dinners now and then. I appreciated her efforts, but how could I stop seeing my mom just because my stepmom was being nice? My stepmom had 3 kids then and would leave them at my place whenever she would be busy, and I loved that because I was very much attached to them. I would never mind babysitting them and would have a great time with them. One day, my stepmom had to go out with her friends and dropped her kids off at my place. We had put on a Disney movie and was sitting in the lounge while my youngest brother was in my lap with his feeder when CPS knocked at the door. When I opened the door, they told me that someone had reported that kids were being mistreated at my place, so they had to take a look. I let them in, and they checked around, and of course, there were no proofs because it was not true, so the CPS apologized for the inconvenience and left. I called my stepmom right away and told her what had happened. She told me that she was coming to me ASAP. When she came to my place, I told her the whole story and asked her who it could be. She looked clueless and then promptly said that it could be my mom. I told her that she was being insane and why would she ever do that? My stepmom said that my mom might not like the way she's made me babysit her kids and had come up with the idea of reporting to CPS. I told her that my mom knew I loved my siblings, so there was no chance. My stepmom left with her kids, and I called my mom to tell her that I wanted to see her. I still do not believe that it could be my mom, as she had no idea that the kids were at my place at the time anyway. There were only 2 people who knew that, and they were my dad and my stepmom. My mom came to see me, and I told her the whole situation. I also told her that my stepmom had blamed her for doing that. My mom said that it was so kiddish to send CPS to my place, and why would she even do that? She said that she knew how much I loved my siblings and she had no issues with me babysitting them, as I loved to spend time with them anyway. I told her I had said the same to my stepmom, but she had believed it was you. My mom and I were having tea together, and suddenly she asked why it could not be my stepmom. I asked her why she would send CPS when she had dropped the kids off herself. My mom told me that she might have done that so that she could later blame my mom, so I should confirm that and think of it anyway. She also said that it was my stepmom who knew that the kids were with me. I told my mom that I had thought the same, and her words made sense. I have to think of a way to find out if it was my stepmom or not. It was never my mom, as she would never do such a thing, plus she was unaware that I was having the kids with me. I called my stepmom the next day and told her that she was right, and I believed it was my mom, as my mom was acting weirdly when she came to see me. My stepmom seemed happy and told me that she had warned me already and that my mom could not be trusted. I asked my stepmom if we could go out for lunch or something, as the previous day was so stressful for me. She told me that she'd pick me up around noon. My stepmom and I went out for lunch and she took me to my favorite restaurant. She also ordered my favorite continental food, and it felt like she was the happiest. Our food had arrived when I asked her if I could take photos on her phone, as my phone was dead. She handed over her phone and I took a lot of photos. We started eating, and when we had finished, I picked up her phone to click a photo of her, but went through her phone instead. I found Google searches about CPS and then found those numbers in her call logs of the previous day. It was confirmed that my stepmom had planned to blame my mom later on. I did not react and asked her to drop me at my place after we were done. I had told my mom that it was my stepmom, and she said that she already knew, as she had so many reasons to do that. The next day, I went to see my dad in the evening, and my stepmom was so glad to see me. She told me that she was going to prepare tea for us and left me with my dad. I asked my dad if he knew that CPS had sort of raided my place, and he was clueless. I told him the whole scenario and also that it was my stepmom who had planned it. He could not believe me, so I told him to check my stepmom's phone. Her phone was right on the table, and my dad immediately went through it. He also found the Google history, and then I asked him to go through the calls log. My stepmom came back from the kitchen and was stunned to see us going through the phone. She asked what we were up to, and that was when my dad exploded at her. A huge fight had broke out between them, and I thought it was better to leave. My dad called me and told me that he was embarrassed about what my stepmom had done and would make sure that she would never plan something like that again. He also said that she just wanted me to hate my mom and stay attached to my stepmom. I told him that this was the lowest I had expected from her. My dad said that she would be coming over to apologize, to which I replied that she did not need to, as the damage was done. My stepmom came to see me and told me that she had tried for years to win my heart, but I was always inclined towards my mom. I told her that it would still not justify what she had done. She said that she would never stoop that low and wanted me to forgive her. I told her that it was all right and I had no grudges for her, but I was never going to babysit her kids, and even if I had to spend time with them, I would visit their place, and that was it. NTA, you did what needed to be done because you needed to find out who was behind all this. OP had been honest with her siblings and held no grudges against anyone, so she deserved to be left alone to decide who she wanted in her life. Thankfully, she moved out in time because her stepmother was far too toxic and would never stop trying to control her life. NTA, who is the AH, is already pretty clear here, and I do not think that she needs to be highlighted more. That stepmom just could not understand that after all, that lady was OP's biological mom, and her inclination towards her was valid. OP did not hurt anyone or plan against anyone. It was just that she loved her mom and wanted to spend time with her, which hurt the stepmom. I hope some sense is knocked into her head.
Next story.
So I'm a 35-year-old man, and I came out at gay at 23 years old and was told by my parents I didn't act gay, so I couldn't be. So away back into the closet I went for a few years. My father very sadly passed away just before I turned 21, and I had 3 younger brothers at the time, aged 12, 10, and 7. While at university, I struggled to juggle multiple jobs so that my mother didn't lose her house when she came down with depression, and I effectively raised my 3 younger brothers. My mother was not a fan when I came out again at 23, but she still relied on me heavily financially, so kept her mouth shut. We also lived in different cities, so she never met any of the men that I dated. I first met my current partner, now my fiancé, when I just turned 30 and he was 22. He approached me, and I took the relationship extremely slowly due to the age gap. But we have happily been together for 6 years now. I'm about to turn 36, and he's now 28. My mother always made snide remarks about me after she became more involved in my life. She never said anything to him. Passive-aggressive comments like, "You're so handsome, it's a shame you'll never have a wife," or "I wish you were a girl, then you wouldn't be gay." Really hurtful things that I always brushed off for the sake of maintaining the peace. When I got engaged in December last year, I was so excited until January. I received a handwritten letter through the door with her telling me that she loves me, but she can't stand to see me throw my life away, never have kids, never have a wife, and live my life in sin with him. I haven't had any contact with her since, with the exception of my niece's 7-year-old birthday party. She arrived later and quietly suggested that I leave since I had already been there for a few hours, so I didn't make it awkward and give her time with her granddaughter. I kindly told her I wasn't the one with the issue, so I wasn't leaving, and that pissed her off. But she held her tongue. She has recently heard through my younger brother that my fiancé's sister is willing to donate her eggs if we can find a surrogate. We gratefully agreed, and I would donate the sperm. That way the child is genetically related to both of us. Now, my mother has contacted me and wants to be in my life again so that she can see my children. She gave me an apology, but I said the only way I'd allow her back into my life is if she would attend family therapy with me and my partner so that we can work out these homophobic issues. She refused because she doesn't believe in therapy and assured me that she's very sorry and just wants to be a part of me and my children's lives. My brothers also said I should accept the apology so we can smooth this over. AITA for refusing to allow her in my life again until we can attend therapy together and get to the root of these issues. NTA, this isn't just about your own personal sense of resentment or pettiness, although you should honestly be justified if it were. This is also about how she's going to treat your child. Because the thing is, if she is shameless, homophobic, enough to disown you after you busted your ass to keep a roof over her head, there is no way that she won't be shameless, homophobic enough to keep herself from saying shit to your child. Shame you don't have a mommy and a daddy, and things like that. If she is too proud to make the necessary changes to see her grandchild, that's her choice. NTA, it would be very unhealthy for you, your partner, and your children to have someone like your mother involved in your children's lives. If she can't approve of their parents, it's going to show to your children. Your children don't need to hear someone saying that their parents are sinning just by being a family. They don't need to hear that they're a part of a sinful family. There is no good way for your mother to be involved with your family as long as she believes it is sinful for you to be a family.
Next story.
I, 31-year-old male, have a son, 16. My son and I have been living alone due to his mother passing away when he was born. We have always had a really close relationship. I told my son that I was bisexual a few years ago, and he was completely fine with it, until recently. He started acting weird. He always tried his best to avoid talking to me, and this really bothered me. Around 3 weeks ago, I got a call from the school telling me that he wasn't attending his classes. I got really worried, so I left work and went straight to the school to find out where he was. I found out that some days he didn't even turn up to school, and I knew that he had always made it because I would drop him off. I talked to the school and called my friends to help me look for him, and after a few hours we found him back at the house, pretending like nothing had happened. We had dinner without talking, and he later came into my room and told me not to embarrass him by running into his school and acting like an idiot. I told him I wouldn't do it again and apologized, but told him he was grounded for what he did. He got really angry and said that his friends were making fun of him for weeks after they found out I had a boyfriend and that I'm ruining his reputation. He stormed out of the house and stole my car, so I called the police. They found him and his friends driving my car and arrested them. When my parents found out, they completely lost it and said that I was a horrible father and that I shouldn't ruin his future because of a stupid argument. His friends' parents also said that I was an ass because I was acting out of spite. I would never press charges against my son for what he did, but he has to do service with his friends for putting others' lives at risk, which I agree with. But many people and my friends are calling me an a-hole for calling the police and embarrassing him in the first place. I'd like to clarify that my son doesn't know how to drive and won't be starting his lessons until he is 17. I wrote that I wouldn't be pressing charges for the theft, but my son did do some damage, so it has become a legal issue that I can't disclose any personal information on. Sorry for confusing people. NTA, you call the police because he stole your car, not because of the argument. Many people unfortunately give in when pressured and are afraid to upset or punish their kids, even with natural consequences. You're doing good. Hang in there. Many teenagers are embarrassed by their parents, and most teenagers are mortified when their parents are at their school. Too bad. It sucks to be teens sometimes. If you hadn't called the police and your son was involved in an accident or negligent driving that caused damage, the law could claim your negligent parenting contributed.